Hello and welcome to day 10 of Romance Yourself. Today we have a yin practice meant to help you cultivate self-forgiveness. Part of being in an honest relationship with yourself is recognizing that sometimes we are not totally perfect. We are not always the best version of ourselves, if you will. However, on the yogic path and on the journey of self-love becomes less about being perfect and more about loving ourselves when we are not perfect. In this way, we need to cultivate forgiveness and compassion for ourselves, rather than shame or judge ourselves whenever we feel less than. Through the practice of yoga, we can learn to be aware of our behaviors, understand why we behave the way we behave, and show ourselves more compassion. Today's affirmation is, I forgive myself and I learn from my past. I recommend that if you have them today, you grab your blocks and your bolster. And if you don't have these, at least grab yourself a pillow or two. We can use our props in our yoga practice to kind of act as these physical representations of showing ourselves forgiveness and compassion and grace. And we're going to do that right away, coming into toe squat. So I'll turn sideways so it's a little bit easier for you to see. But from tabletop pose, you're going to tuck your toes and send your hips back towards your heels, walking the hands back. Now, for some people, they like to keep their hands right in front of them. Other people can bring their hands up onto their thighs. If you're able to, use your hands to tuck those little pinky toes under so that all 10 toes are tucked. And then another way that we can manage the amount of pressure that we're putting into our feet is by bringing blocks on their highest setting right next to our hips and just giving ourselves a little lift if we ever feel like we're going too deep into the pose. And so once you're in your toe squat, we'll go ahead and soften everything, settling in, closing the eyes, internally repeating, I forgive myself and I learn from my past. Taking your last few breath cycles right here. Hi, turkey. One more breath in. And as you exhale, you can move the blocks. If you were using blocks, you can walk your hands forward and bring the tops of your feet to the mat and widen your knees apart. Big toes touch. Send your hips back towards your heels. Excuse me. And from here, we'll lower down into tadpole, walking the hands forward, lowering the head down, and feeling that stretch through the fronts of your ankles after having the toes tucked under. You can always bring the bolster underneath your chest and your head, Whenever you feel settled, softening your body and coming back to your affirmation, I forgive myself and I learn from my past. With your next inhale, lift your head, look towards your hands, and you're going to shift your weight forward again, back into table. But today, keep your knees wide and we'll practice frog pose. For frog, you're welcome to grab a blanket and bring it underneath your knees. And I really recommend that you grab either your blocks or your pillows or your bolster and bring it underneath the upper body. You're going to continue to widen the knees apart, widen the feet apart, toes point outward, and let the knees slide away from one another and lower yourself down onto a prop or multiple props. Because there's so much happening in the lower body, we are trying to soften the lower body, of course, but having to do work in the arms by holding ourselves up, it just causes a lot of discomfort whenever we could be finding more ease in a very challenging posture. Just like frog pose, forgiving ourselves can be really challenging. And so through this posture, I invite you to find a way to give yourself some grace in the form of bringing props in. Alrighty, once you find your frog pose, you start to soften, lowering your head down, reconnecting to that breath that's going to support you here, and internally repeating, I forgive myself and I learn from my past. Take another deep breath in here. And exhale, start to raise up, coming onto the hands and sliding the legs back in, carefully and mindfully. Move your prop out of the way and we'll lower down to the belly for Sphinx. Getting the hips and the legs in alignment can feel really good after that deep hip opener. Sphinx pose, your elbows are underneath your shoulders, toes reaching back, softening the glutes, and then letting yourself sink into the support of your arm bones. Head can be heavy, or you could keep the chin lifted parallel to the earth. Begin to soften in and internally repeat your affirmation for today. I forgive myself, and I learn from my past. Take another breath in here. Exhale, let it go, and lower yourself all the way down to the belly, stacking the palms. From here, we're just going to roll over onto our backs. Take your time. Taking a reclined twist, bringing the knees in towards your body, opening the arms out into a T shape or a cactus shape, and letting both legs drop over to the right. You want your left shoulder to stay down towards the ground, and you want to be bringing your knees in towards your body and letting the feet slide away. Once you soften, this might change, but just as a starting point, using those guide points to come into the pose. Breathe into your left side body. Soften everything into the earth here. Take another breath in. Exhale, bring your legs up through center, keeping them close in as you let them drop to the other side. And then softening again here. Take one more breath in. Use your exhale to bring the legs through center again. Let the feet return down to the mat. Just take a moment of pause, bringing your hands on top of your body perhaps. Feel the effect of the poses today. In your own time, roll yourself over and let's come to meet in a seat once again. Whenever you get into your seat, taking a moment to reflect on your practice, reflecting on your forgiveness to yourself, letting go of any shame or any stories of shame that might have risen up for you in your practice. Taking with you this intention to be compassionate and forgiving to yourself, and knowing that that will spill out into your other relationships. Bringing your palms together in front of the heart, honoring the light in yourself and the light within others. Namaste. Thank you for being here. I hope this practice serves you well, and I hope that you can give yourself some grace today. If you have the time, please do the affirmation meditation included in this series, and then I will see you tomorrow. Namaste.